From the western part of Kenya, I am Robert Wanyonyi, and this is KTN News.
This is KTN News.
Mark, please first. Welcome back. You're watching this extended version of Kivumbi 2017. We have just seen the final submissions at the Supreme Court. The 7 judges of the highest court in the land now retreating to write their rulings. Kenyans expecting a verdict in the next 3 days or so. I'm now joined very quickly by lawyer Joy Brendam Devo and communication strategist, expert Mark Bichachi. Thank you, lady and gentlemen, for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
We have seen a lot happen in the last 3 or 4 days. How would you describe the performance of both legal teams?
One thing that we must give credit, where credit is due, is that both teams, not both teams, because there are actually quite a few teams that presented, right. Everybody did their homework. With the time constraints that they were given, with the parameters that they were given within which to work, we saw a lot of preparation going into it. Most of the teams were also very well coordinated because you saw, for example, you have 5 hours to fill. You cannot expect one advocate to carry a train of thought through those 5 hours. So they were able to section the arguments and be able to deliver the punches that they needed to deliver. So that much you must give them credit for. Somebody like the Honorable Attorney General is known for being able to talk for quite a while, but you saw him today being able to take his 20 minutes, punch what he needed to punch, make his point and get out of the way. Also, we've seen the court, how it has been conducted. The judges have had a very even keel. They've been very balanced in the rulings that they've made, even on oral applications in court. And they've also had a firm hand on the procedure and what has been going on in court. So the litigants have sort of not been running the show, as it were, but even where the litigants seem to step out of line, the Chief Justice or the Deputy Chief Justice were very quick to establish the order and bring everybody back in tow. So the last 3 days we have seen litigation par excellence, I think.
All right. Mark, what stood out for you?
I think the most amazing thing for me is that Kenya is actually coming out as the winner, in the sense that both sides have argued the case that will end up in helping build our democratic institutions and our democratic conversations. This is very critical because the Kenyan people are now informed between what was innuendo and what has been fact. And the people are able to decide. And as the courts give their decision, the people are able to interact with the electoral processes and be able to query for 2022, for a by-election coming up. We are able to query and build based on the information that we've received. And I must commend the panels that were there, the various lawyers, because they came out very articulate, the judges were very firm, and they seemed also to be very fair, which is a very important thing. Right. So I think on the whole, the picture is that, number one, Kenya is coming out as a very clever country. Let's start there. We sound very, very smart. Let's start there. And two, the points were argued from a basis of sense and where the basic human Kenyan can relate with the points. All
right. Of course, some of the issues that Kenyans expected or did hear was the report on those on the audit of the servers by IEBC and what the teams had to say about that, as well as the forms 34A and B. Let's listen into some of that.
This is our own independent expert saying, and does not affect the vulnerability of the system. And they conclude by saying the internal firewall configuration was not delivered as ordered by the court. My lords, that's serious. My lords, in regards to certified copies of certificates of penetration tests conducted by the IEBC on the election technology system prior to the election. My lord, again, this one was not submitted at all. And this is important to know whether this system had integrity. My lords, again, when it comes to the documents relating to certified copies of certificates by professionals prepared to Regulation 10, again of the same regulation, again, this was not provided. This is even more important, Order 1, found in paragraph 3.9. Specific GPR location of each KIMS kit used during the presidential election for the period between 5th of August 2017 to 11th of August. They said they provided the GPS locations for the polling stations, but not for the kits, which means that if those were provided, then they would have known whether these kits were used or not and from where they were used.
All right, that is the lead counsel for the petitioners, that is senior counsel James Agri Orengo there. Of course, on that, the audits of those servers and all that, there was an issue about reports that Orengo was referring to. Joy, I don't know if you can just clarify for us.
What we saw is Honorable Orengo was looking at a report when he was making his submissions earlier. And we saw a challenge coming from Ngati on the other side saying, look, the only reports you should be referring to are the reports that we have. Now, the difference with that is, while they were going to the scrutineering, they went together with the registrar of the Supreme Court, as well as court clerks and court staff from the Supreme Court, as well as court-appointed IT experts. Now, the report that was generated by the registrar is what the judges will rely on, because basically the registrar was their eyes in that scenario. So rather than the judges themselves going to take evidence from the servers, the registrar did that on their behalf. And then why they had the court-appointed IT experts, so that you have a third eye that is looking at the system and can draw a conclusion as an expert. Now, we saw the ruling by Judge Lenaola had some expert input, and I understand that the thicker version, that because there are two reports, the thicker version is the one that has a technical aspect into it. So that's why there was a distinction between the report that Honorable Orengo was trying to table and what he finally ended up having to rely on, because the judges will only look at the report from their own officers as well as their own court-appointed experts in this matter. But each of the parties was welcome to produce their own report.
The report. All right. Speaking of IT, a lot of conversations on social media, especially Kenyans, are talking about servers, the